Hello and welcome to another Connoisseur Conversation with a.lange Söhne. We're here at the a.lange Söhne Salon in Geneva. My name is Suzanne Wong and we'll be talking about a very special timepiece, the 1815 chronograph, Hampton Court Special Edition, which was a highlight, I believe, at the Concourse of Elegance, Hampton Court, which was, I believe, held earlier this year at the beginning of September. And we will be taking a very special conversation and some very special time with our three guests here to talk about this timepiece, which will be auctioned in November by our friend here, Aurel Bacs, who is here with Phillips, Bacs Russo. And with us also we have Jonathan Townsend, CEO of the Prince's Trust in the UK, and of course our very dear friend Wilhelm Schmid, CEO of a.lange Söhne. How are all of you gentlemen today? Very happy to see you here.
Thank you.
Likewise.
Thank you. Indeed.
I look forward to a very exciting conversation about a.lange Söhne and very specifically the timepiece and what we're going to achieve with the auction in November. Now, Wilhelm, you have decided to auction off a very valuable timepiece for a very good cause. What was the intention behind this and where do you see the connection with the charity working together with the Prince's Trust?
First of all, it is our event. That's the Hampton Court concoursofelegance sponsored by a.lange Söhne. So if we wanted to do something, it had to be in England. Mm-hmm. And of course, there is hardly any better charity foundation than the Prince's Trust, because if you know a little bit about a.lange Söhne, and if we go back in history, I mean, it was Ferdinand out of Lange who started with a watchmaking school, you know, in an area where there was no future. People had no hope, silver mines were empty, and that's where he went to help them, because he believed, as we believe, that education is probably the key to almost any challenge that we face today or back then. Walter Lange did the same after reunification. We'll have the 25th anniversary of our watchmaking school this year. So education of young people is something very close to our heart, and I think that's what we share with the Prince's Trust.
So already there was that very obvious and immediate connection with what the Prince's Trust is doing, their amazing work in the UK. Jonathan, would you be able to tell us a bit about your reaction when you first heard that this would be happening in conjunction with the work that you're doing?
Yes, Suzanne. I mean, we were delighted to hear the news, and it's great, as Wilhelm has just said, that a.lange Söhne have such similar values to us. You know, educating young people to prepare them for the life ahead, to give them the skills and the confidence. And you know, the Trust has done that for over 45 years. His Majesty King Charles set the Trust up in 1976 to help young people in a similar circumstance, you know, facing challenges at a really tough time. And since then have helped over 1 million young people and helped them into jobs, into self-employment, into education. So we were delighted at the news because this is a really challenging time for young people. The pandemic hit young people hardest, and they feel that their life prospects have been hit. And we now have a cost of living crisis, which is sort of doubling down on them. So we are so grateful for this very generous gesture, and we're really looking forward to seeing how it plays out at the beginning of November.
Mm-hmm. Thank you for that little bit of background about the Prince's Trust and the work that they're doing. Could you give us a bit more of a hint about how the benefits of the proceeds of this auction will directly go towards impacting the lives of young people?
So I spend a lot of time with the young people that we work with. We work with 60,000, 70,000 young people every year, but everyone's an individual, and we build the confidence and skills and resilience of those young people to move into employment, into education or in self-employment. So I think this money will be targeted at really helping them into work at a really, really tough time to them. And I see it at the celebrations of our programs, how young people have gone from sort of quite challenging circumstances. We've built those skills and that confidence, and we're getting them into those jobs. And that's a fantastic step, very much in line with the principle of the school, that we're laying that foundation to give them a job, to contribute to the future economy, and hopefully to lead that economy as we go into the future.
Mm-hmm. Wilhelm, back to you. I understand that there was a really special occasion, the 10th anniversary of the Concourse of Elegance, that you really wanted to take advantage of and celebrate in a very special way, and that's why you particularly wanted to push forward this project.
Definitely, there's an additional reason. I think if you go to these events, whoever made it there is already pretty privileged. Mm-hmm. I mean, it's a great setting, beautiful cars. There's a lot of money involved. And we thought, instead of giving a watch to the best of show, we rather do something which supports the society that enables us to have these beautiful events. So that actually was the reason behind it, that we didn't give like we do at the Lago di Como event, where we give a watch to the best of show. Here we said we do differently. And what was great to see as we announced this to the participants, there was no disappointment. There was actually, a lot of applause for that initiative, and they will support us in the run to get it as high as possible.
It sounds like they really appreciated the announcement, and overall, I think it sounds like an amazing event, and it must have been such a wonderful and warm environment to be in. Now, I understand that the both of you gentlemen, Jonathan and Aurel, were sadly unable to make it to the Concours of Elegance in Hampton Court this year. How did you experience it from afar, knowing that you were going forward with this project?
Well, I was indeed heartbroken. As a petrol head and as a watch geek, I was heartbroken when I realized that my calendar wouldn't allow me to attend, despite a generous invitation from Lange Söhne to join them. I saw, of course, many pictures. I had constant texts and calls from car collectors who also happen to be watch collectors. I think the quality of the motor cars, the atmosphere, the community, the watch collecting and car collecting community that sort of gathered on that beautiful setting was a very special event. And it's really sad that I wasn't able in person to attend and admire.
Next year.
With great pleasure. I accept your invitation.
Now, so there is no excuse.
It has to be the first thing.
Accepted.
Exactly. How about you, Jonathan?
A similar regret that I was unable to be there, but a real, delight that firstly the news that Wilhelm shared was a real alignment of the values of our two organisations, and a real delight actually that the announcement that the watch would be auctioned and those proceeds donated to the trust so well received in such a magnificent setting. It's a wonderful palace. It is a wonderful place to showcase obviously a fabulous timepiece, but also all those wonderful cars. So great warmth from ourselves, and my colleagues came away really enthused about the opportunity. And the brilliant setting that it was.
And despite the fact that it always rains in England and the forecast was bad, we had the most brilliant weather throughout the weekend.
Well, we arranged the summer just for that reason.
Fortune was really on your side for this one. Aurel, I imagine it didn't take you very long at all to say yes, to give a resounding yes to the project when Wilhelm came to you with it. Tell us a bit more about how that happened and what your initial reaction was.
Well, first and foremost, it's not the first time that Wilhelm called me out of the blue. And I have to say, out of the blue. I was sitting at my desk and I see Wilhelm Schmid on my mobile screen. And he says, with his typical German voice, "My dear friend, can I ask you a favor?" "Sure. Would you like to auction a very, very special, unique piece? I can't say much about it yet." My answer was yes, of course. When I knew that it was a unique watch, when I knew the proceeds were going to the Prince's Trust, this is when we just strive and thrive and go all the way to support this. So my answer was immediately, yes, of course, we can.
I understand that the 1815 chronograph also has a special emotional resonance for yourself, for everyone at Lange Söhne. Wilhelm, would you like to tell us a bit about that?
Look, it's 1815 is the birth year of Ferdinand Adolf Lange, and it, for us, sort of summarizes how a pocket watch would look like today. But of course, we don't build pocket watches anymore. So all the design language is very traditional. Funny enough, it attracts the youngest customers. I don't know why that is, but obviously, it's a very timeless design. And we're famous for the chronographs, so to come up with a unique dial case combination for an 1815 chronograph, I think is ticking many boxes on any collector, serious collector's tick list to what he wants or she wants to buy next.
I think a lot of people would agree with you. Perhaps some people in our audience might be wondering, why not hold the auction directly at Hampton Court? Why wait? Why not do it right there, in the middle of the environment where everyone is experiencing such a great vibe and atmosphere?
We had a long debate about it. And here I have to say thank you to Aurel. He's a lot better in that. I mean, good in watches. He is perfect in the auction world. And we had lengthy debates about what is the best. And the conclusion is announcing it at Hampton Court, activating the car collector community. And despite the fact that we are there as a main partner, the majority of the people are car collectors, which is not a bad thing to have them on your side, but then use the 2 months in between to activate the whole world. And then, when all the watch collectors look at the main event, which is the 6th of November, then we really give a chance. And trust me, as a petrol head and a watch lover, I was really torn apart. Now the race is on. Let's see whether the watch community wins or the car community. And that was, I said in my last speech, we need a lot of enthusiastic underbidder to maximize the proceeds that will go to the Prince's Trust. And that's the main aim.
Exactly.
And that was the decisive factor. Where can we generate the highest amount, the highest money to give it to the Prince's Trust?
All for a good cause.
Yes.
Aurel, I have to ask you, as a professional auctioneer, what would be your opinion of the value of Lange Söhne watches in general? And after that, I'm going to ask you, put you on the spot a bit and ask, what do you think this watch is actually going to fetch at auction?
Well, first and foremost, and it's not a secret, I'm personally a huge fan since the relaunch in the 90s of anything that came out of a.lange Söhne's workshop. Truth is that a.lange Söhne has an ever-growing community of collectors who appreciate the incredible quality, the timeless design, still paired with that right amount of innovation and fantasy. So many times Lange Söhne has surprised the community by bringing out a function that no one really imagined coming out. They've never played with endless limited editions. And that's very important for the credibility of the brand.
The exclusivity in a way.
Absolutely, and not just lending here 20 pieces, there 50 pieces, there 100 pieces. That's not Lange Söhne's business model. They say, we do this, they do it, but there's no, going around. Hence, a truly unique a.lange Söhne is extraordinarily rare. I can't really think of many. The same for special orders. I don't think that anyone with a big checkbook can walk up to Wilhelm's office and say, can you do me this with a special dial and a special case back? The answer is, I love you, you're a great collector, but no. And I've heard it coming from Wilhelm's mouth. So the uniqueness of the watch lifts it to something, I think, into the absolute highest top handful of watches that Lange Söhne made in the last 8 years.
So do we have any numbers on this estimate, or are you going to remain coy and...
Well, of course, I didn't bring my crystal ball with me, so thank you for asking that question.
Just had to put you on the spot a bit. It is
fair enough. I'll give you a couple of answers that obviously very Swiss, very diplomatic. First and foremost, when Wilhelm and his team entrusted us a couple of years ago with the auction of the unique stainless steel homage to Walter Lange, we both wrote down a number on a napkin just across the lake where we had coffee. We were both shocked by our self-confidence, but of course, given the uniqueness, the stainless steel case, etc., we felt it was appropriate. And I think both of us were surprised that the watch sold for triple what we initially hoped for. Lessons learned. I'm not going to ridicule myself and make predictions.
Yeah, don't ask me, Suzanne.
I won't.
The watch is very different this time. So let's not compare the two watches. The Hampton Court unique piece is a design language that is quite unique in Lange Söhne's last 3 decades of watchmaking, wrist watchmaking. First, the reverse panda dial design. This is something that petrol heads in particular remember from the 60s, maybe 70s. The watch is worn on race tracks for rallies, for car racing. So there's clearly, if you look at the watch, you can pretty much smell the petrol and the burnt rubber by the dial design.
Very evocative.
There is a clin d'oeil. There is a clin d'oeil with the sandy gold script and the scales. That sort of oozes vintage. That sort of slightly discolored, faded color tone instead of the very contrastuous white script. So to me, that is, again, something that Lange Söhne has not done as far as I can remember. And then we go to the case back. The case back that is handcrafts at its best. Something that we have seen occasionally with the Handwerkskunst series of engine turning, of patterns. And all this combined with probably the most beautiful chronograph movement there is. I think a number of very serious collectors will come out, but please, Suzanne, no predictions at this moment.
Well, I can only regret that we don't actually have the piece in the room, because after that extremely passion-inducing description by Aurel, Wilhelm, maybe you could tell us a bit about how the response has been so far, like, when you spoke to people who are perhaps interested or excited to bid on the piece.
Believe it or not, I only saw the watch once in the flesh, and that was at Hampton Court. And it was behind glass because we're not allowed to touch it, because it is truly a unique watch. And the right to unveil it for the first time, of course, belongs to the successful bidder at the end, at the 6th of November. It's the old challenge that no photographer can really catch the beauty of our watches two-dimensional. It really, if you see it in the flesh, it just unfolds all the magic, which is so hard to catch with photos. That's why I'm glad that the watch will go around a little bit, and it will be in Geneva before. And I can just invite everybody who is seriously interested, that last little bit of enthusiasm will definitely be injected when you see the watch in the flesh.
So now we have all the details of the what, the when, and the where. Now, Aurel, I'm going to ask you about the how. For members of our audience who are watching at home, who might be interested to throw their hats in the ring, so to speak, how would they go about, making themselves eligible or registering to bid? Maybe you could explain a little.
With great pleasure. So if you're watching now from home and have the need to own this unique piece and to support the Prince's Trust, please visit phillips.com. The auction will take on the weekend of the 5th and 6th of November here in Geneva at La Reserve. You will find on phillips.com all the self-explanatory links to connect, create a client account, and to participate either by telephone, online, or if you come to Geneva in person in the room with a paddle up in the air.
I'll be there.
Thank you.
I think we all will be. After that very thorough and complete explanation by Aurel, Jonathan, I'd like to pass the last word over to you as the representative of those that the sale of this watch will actually benefit. Do you have any last words for our audience and any potential bidders out there?
Yeah, I do. I'd like to just really reassure you and encourage you that the money that you will spend on bidding for this watch will go to changing young people's lives. We've been working, as I said earlier on, for 46 years. We've got a brilliant alumni of young people who we've helped, who aren't quite so young now, who've gone on to make significant contributions to society. We've had a vice president of marketing for Coca-Cola. We've had all sorts of alumni do some significant things, but also many, many people have just contributed to the economy in their community. So everything that you bid, every increment that you add to the bidding will contribute to changing dozens of young people's lives, and we'll be very grateful for your help.
And on that note, it remains to me just to say thank you so much for the amazing discussion that we've just had. Thank you so much to Jonathan, Aurel, and of course, Wilhelm. And have a good day and see you in November.
See you in November. Cheers and thank you.
Bye-bye.